Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, distinguished guests, professionals, colleagues, and all of you all watching us live from across the globe. My name is Sonu Nahata. I'm a Company Secretary and Assistant Director with the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to another international webinar of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India on Corporate Secretaries Enhancing Collaboration Globally. Attuned to this theme today, the webinar is a collaborative effort of ICSI and NCSA, which is the National Corporate Secretaries Association, Russia. We are humbled with the presence of an insightful panel of thought leaders from both Russia and India gracing the occasion today. Let us begin with the introductions. Our first panelist of the day from Russia is Mr. Oleg Svetkov. He's a Managing Director and Corporate Secretary of Sberbank PJCS SC since 2014, Chairman of the Board of National Corporate Secretaries Association, that is NCSA, Corporate Governance Expert Committee at the Central Bank of Russia, a member of the Supervisory Board of the Professional Directors Association, IDA. He's been the leader of the rating of corporate governance directors of the top 1,000 Russian managers in 2019 to 2013 for metallurgical sector, 2016, 2018, and 2019 and 21 in the banking sector. Mr. Oleg Svetkov is Diploma Certified Director from the British Institute of Directors. We welcome you, Mr. Svetkov. Our second panelist from Russia today is Mr. Alexander Kamensky, Corporate Secretary of PJSC Moscow Exchange since 2013, member of the NCSA board since 2014, leader of the rating of corporate governance directors of the top 1,000 Russian managers in 2017 and 2021 financial sector. Mr. Alexander Kamensky is also Diploma Certified Director from the British Institute of Directors. Welcome, sir. Our third panelist, yet again from Russia, is Ms. Natalia Podolskaya. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced it. Corporate Secretary of PJSC LUKOIL since 2016. She's a member of the National Corporate Secretaries Association, that is NCSA, and head of NCSA Working Group on Sustainable Development and ESG. In the year 2020, Ms. Podolskaya won the Corporate Governance Director, Corporate Secretary category of the Director of the Year 15 National Award, which was organized by the Association of Professional Directors, that is the IDA, and the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs in partnership with PwC, Sberbank, PJSC, Moscow Exchange. Welcome, ma'am. From the Indian side, we have amongst us Mr. Mahavir Singhvi. He's a combination of academic excellence and analytical and diplomatic skills. Mr. Singhvi is the Joint Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs with about 20 years of professional standing. A 1999 batch IFS officer, he has had an illustrious career wherein he's been a part of several important assignments, including as Joint Secretary, Counterterrorism, Joint Secretary, Central Europe, Director, SAARC, BIMSTEC, and Border Connectivity, Director, ENSA, Director, LAC, Director, Multilateral Economic Relations, Deputy Secretary, Technical Cooperation, etc. He has also represented India on several international fora during his various assignments in the diplomatic service. We welcome you, Mr. Singhvi. We then have our own CS Ashish Garg, immediate past President, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and President, Corporate Secretaries International Association as our fifth panelist. And finally, we have our very own CS Nagendra D. Rao, President, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, as our sixth panelist. Welcome, everyone. Now, as we all are aware, that while the world is bracing for a prolonged recovery from this massive health and economic crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the responsibility for developing and sustaining good corporate governance has fallen all the more in the remit of a corporate secretary. It has hence become essentially important for governance professionals across the globe to keep pace with the changing regulatory and technological regime around the world and implement processes that promote innovation and sustainability. With innovation governance fast becoming the new management imperative, the board of directors is now looking at corporate secretaries to advise on organizations' governance as well as risk management approach. It is with this intent of understanding the renewed role and responsibility of a corporate secretary as skilled professionals in different jurisdictions that we have designed today's engaging panel discussion to explore the opportunity of enhancing collaborative capacities across the globe for an inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development. Now, without taking up much of your time, I would like to invite our panelists to share their initial thoughts before starting the actual panel discussion. We will start with Mr. Oleg Svetkov. Over to you, Mr. Svetkov.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good day, dear colleagues. I know we are operating in different time zones, and welcome everyone to this long expected and long ago, just as an idea, started webinar, just as the start of our cooperation between Indian Company Secretaries Institute and Russian Corporate Secretaries Institute, and everybody is welcome here, and I hope it's a good start of our long-to-last activities and future cooperation. Thank you very much. And are we showing presentation at the moment, or we do it later? If you can show my, if you can.
We'll do it right away.
Thank you. And while my colleagues are opening the presentation, I wanted to tell you that my introduction speech concerns the short description of the Institute of Corporate Secretary in Russia. Actually, this is next slide, please. This is a pretty modern profession in Russia. Next slide, please. This is a pretty modern profession in Russia, and actually, it is not regulated by in the law, in the company law, for example, but it is mostly regulated by the soft law, and we are moving very evolutionary to that. And the main activities, the main scope of tasks of company secretary in Russia is mostly the interaction with the shareholders, interaction and what is done, the processes and activities with the board of directors, what concerns the regulatory information disclosure, and the new stream for company secretary now is in most companies, the company secretary becomes the center of expertise, corporate governance expertise for the company, and directors, managers, colleagues, stakeholders can come to company secretary for advice for the best practices relevant for the company, and that is very, very valuable for this profession, as we all know that from the purely regulatory character, it moves to a more sophisticated administrative position. The Institute of Company Secretary is regulated in Russia in the Corporate Governance Code, which is of 2014, the new version of that. We have a special professional standard approved by the Ministry of Labor in 2018, and we are very much proud for that. And the the Moscow Stock Exchange rules also speak about the necessity of a position of company secretary for the public company. And this is and on this slide we show you a kind of a track record of institute development for starting from 2002. Actually, we are very young. The modern history started this year, and in 2010, 2011. We as the National Company Secretaries Association started in Russia, started our history when we formed as a public association without kind of a legal entity status. No, just move back, please. Move back, please. I will tell you the next slide. And in this. In these years were just with the start for the official life of organization, and in 2016 we registered as an organization, as a legal entity, and we are celebrating this year actually the 10th anniversary of Company Secretary Association, and we celebrating the legal status for the 5 years of legal status of company secretaries. And 3 years ago, as I told you, we kind of started the professional standard for company secretary, which describes all the tasks, all the actions which the company secretary should do when working in this position for different types of companies. And now this slide actually shows the portrait of company secretary of Russia. We as a national association we are doing this survey annually, and this was done end of last year, and we are almost completing the new survey. But actually, you see, the profession is very young. And so the majority of our colleagues is between 25 and 40 years, which shows that a great interest to the younger generation, because this is very challenging and interesting and constantly developing profession, and new fields of involvement appearing with every second, and I will talk about that later. The education, you see the distribution of education, economic, legal, some other. It should be higher education. That is for sure under regulatory issues, and this is more women than men. I would love to know what is the correlation, for example, in India here. But this is a traditional proportion described here. Next slide, please. Yeah, and now about NCSA as the center of gravity. I told you that we formed officially celebrating the 5th year, and we formulated last year the philosophy of organization. And we say that NCSA is the center of gravity for the professionals in corporate governance, for company secretaries, the gravity for inspiration, and the gravity for exchange of experience. And we have external and internal purposes to perform, to take our actions. And one of the external is to develop corporate governance in Russia. This is our one of our target. The second one is develop the different standards of education and development of professional skills of company secretary, and which is more important probably is to strengthen the image of company secretary in Russia. As I told you, it's the new profession. But it is gaining its reputation, and we are building the trust now for the profession and establishing good relations with regulators, with investors, with the other professional organizations of directors, which are quite a number here in Russia. But the Company Secretary Association is the only one, which is pretty evident why. And we also internally we help our members to develop their career. We provide opportunities. We work and have good connections with the employers and kind of we are working as a kind of a search company, but not to full extent, which could also be developed in future. And kind of we provide the platform for our members to interact, to share experience, and to get the right information. Next slide, please. Just these pictures show our activities for this year, and the colleagues from Indian Association, Mr. Rao and Mr. Gak, were the participants of our annual congress in July, which we do regularly for 15 years already, because it was the first activity for company secretaries, the forum, and then later on, with this forum kind of was transformed to a professional organization. And along with this forum, we do the different professional development programs, certifications. We do annual meetings of Corporate Secretaries Club. We choose actual topics and have discussions, open discussions with our members and with invited guests. And sure, we do, thanks to our colleagues, we do lots of legislative activities. It's just the changes in the law, the proposal of changes, the review of materials, and all these things, which are very much welcomed by the members of the associations to help in their work. The next slide, please. And these are the links to our website, to our Facebook page. We started not long ago our English website. And what I wanted also to say, we are helping our members to from the point of view of corporate governance practices, analysis and support and exchange, but also we do we have these sort of IT projects where we have a special IT program to support the company secretary work here in Russia, and we would be happy to share this experience later on, and to understand what, for example, Indian company secretaries are doing, and who is helping, and what IT means to help them in their life. Next slide, please. And this is actually my final slide of my presentation, which I wanted to show is in pictures, and to underline the task of a modern company secretary in working in the age of stockholder capitalism, to be engaged and to be fluent with different kinds of stakeholders, and especially when we talk now about ESG and sustainability issues. Lots of investors and regulators and shareholders underline that ESG G also can be supplemented with another E, employees. And for example, now I know that lots of my colleagues are working with the new type of client, the new type of shareholder employees, to attract on the side of shareholders position and to work not only as with the colleagues but also as the shareholders. Okay, and we are going to have later on a few questions, and I will be ready to answer them. And now I would love to stop at this point. Thank you.
Wow, that has been an amazing journey of 10, 11 years. Thank you so much for sharing the growth trajectory of the profession and the institute in Russia. I would also like to mention that our institute here in India, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, has also completed its 53 years this year. So I would now request CS Nagendra D. Rao to please take over and give us a brief overview of the institute and the profession in India. CS Rao, please. He's just joined in. I think there's some technical glitch. Give us a moment, please. I think by the time he joins in, let me ask Mr. Alexander Kaminsky to give his opening remarks about the trends in Russian corporate governance regulation.
Okay, I will start, and if you can share the screen with my presentation, that would be great. Is possible? If not, I am ready to share my screen with my presentation.
If you're okay, you have the rights, you can share the screen.
Okay, let's do this. Can you see it well? Okay, I hope you all see my presentation, and I'm ready to start.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to tell you about actual corporate governance regulation in Russia and the actual trends that we can see. So I would like to start about two types of regulations. It's hard regulations and soft regulations. So I think it's common for many countries that with civilized system, it is civil code and different types of companies laws. So for Russia, it is relevant that we have civil code, joint stock company law for limited liabilities companies, and also we have some specific laws for certain industries, for example, regarding banks, regarding some financial organizations, and so on. And these types of regulation is covering just general regulation of establishment and operation of the companies. It has some basic and obligatory rules regarding the corporate governance and disclosure of information. It also covers high-level regulations of activities of managing bodies of the companies, how they should be established, how they are formed, and some types of terms of reference, and so on. And as Alec already told, very limited ESG and corporate secretary regulations. So on this level of regulation, we have very limited coverage of these areas. So next, I think it's also typical for many companies, for many countries, is that articles of association regulations adopted by the general meeting of the shareholders of the companies, some shareholders agreement or corporate agreements, has some more detailed rules for corporate governance. So the same in Russia. So the companies based on the joint stock company law, public companies, they provide very detailed regulations of the activities of certain companies in its articles of association and regulations and provisions adopted by the shareholders. So also these documents are covering corporate governance system on certain companies, so the levels of managing, including the obligatory rules for managing bodies of the companies. And also, usually the public companies also had some notice of corporate governance, corporate secretary status, and actually, recent years also trend to ESG components are also part in this statutes. Next level of regulation is listing rules for public companies. They're not obligatory for the whole company, but for the public companies, especially for those who have first level listing, they're obligatory. And within listing rules, we have some special requirements for corporate governance of public companies, especially requirements to have specific committees under the board of directors, special requirements for the independent directors, and also requirement to have the corporate secretary. Also already told this, and specific requirements regarding the disclosure of information. And this is also in addition to obligatory rules from the state. So next level of regulation is Russian Corporate Governance Code, as it was on the history line presented by Oleg. It was adopted in 2014, and it had very detailed scope of recommendations from the Bank of Russia regarding the corporate governance for public companies, and very detailed description of the corporate secretary status and requirements for the directors for the general corporate governance system. Originally, this Russian Corporate Governance Code was and still has the status of recommendation. So it's just a number of recommendations. But the Bank of Russia, being the main and greatest regulator in Russia, it approaches the companies to follow this code by different instruments. For example, it established the rule that in the annual reports of public companies, they should disclose their level of compliance to these recommendations, and by this recommendation become somehow obligatory provisions, and the company should follow them, because in other case they have to disclose what the provisions they do not follow and why. So still the principles comply or explain is applicable for Russian companies, but and for public companies who are following the Russian corporate governance code. But our best practice presume that we should follow these recommendations. And if I'm talking about trends, I think that since there were no changes to the Russian corporate governance code for 7 years, but the corporate governance best practices are not staying on its place, and it's evolving. So Bank of Russia, as a regulator, usually issue a few recommendatory letters with certain activities, and where in details described some best practices, for example, regarding the succession planning for the supervisory board, or evaluation of the supervisory board, and so on and so forth. So these letters are becoming some soft regulations, kind of soft regulation provided by the central bank in Russia, and it is issued to all public companies, and they are recommended to follow these letters. And the last but not the least trend that we can see in Russia, it's letters and principles of investment of largest investment fund. So basically, and originally, I saw those letters, I will say, about 10 years ago, but currently it becomes more and more wide and popular practice when the companies, major international investment funds, are establishing their own investment principles. They are setting the rules for the corporate governance, for ESG principles and expectations within their policies, and then inform the companies, the issuers, about their expectations in the form of these letters, and request them to comply with this policy. They are mostly, in most cases, they are very similar, they duplicate each other, but it appears as a new power, and the company which is interested in being popular among these investors, and which is interested in good relationship with them during the investor days or some investor meetings. They have also to comply with this requirements, expectations of this international investment fund. So it's a new trend when even some requirements appears internationally, and the local regulator can do anything with this. So from formal perspective, you may not comply with these expectations or requirements. But if you want to be good issuer, attractive to the investors, you have to comply with them. So this what I can say in Russian, and I will be happy to provide more details, more information during our Q&A section. So that's all from my side, and I'm ready to provide floor to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Alexander. I think that has given us kind of a fair overview of the regulatory framework of Russia with respect to corporate governance. I would now like to request Mr. Mahavir Singhvi to give us the overview of the Indian governance regulatory perspective. Mr. Singhvi, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me for this important webinar. I always take pride in attending such events because I myself is a company secretary by qualification. Although I have left, I have never joined the profession of company secretaries or never worked in corporate sector, except for a brief period in the initial era of my initial time of my career. Worked in the Unit Trust of India for some time, for a year and a half, and then shifted to the diplomatic service of India. So I may not be well versed with all the developments which are taking place, but I'm sure that we have experts here like Ashish and again Rao, and they would give a better idea of what is the development happening on the corporate governance front. But what I know is that company secretary, which used to be, called as kind of in charge of a secretarial function in a corporate organization or a company, has now transformed itself into a corporate governance professional, and that itself is a kind of a journey which has taken place over the years, and I think that is quite significant. Our Russian colleagues have just mentioned how the corporate governance structure has emerged over there. I think we have a pretty similar structure here too. We have all the laws in place, including Companies Act, other regulations and other statutory requirements which are needed for corporate governance. I think they are in the place, and perhaps we have Ashish and the other experts on the panel. They would give a better idea about that. But what I want to emphasize in this, as the topic of the webinar, is that how to enhance global cooperation among the company secretaries, and I think that is something very, very important. given the kind of the closed system we have now world over. And I think it is important to see that we kind of network with the globally with the other company secretaries. I understand that there are about more than 1 lakh company secretaries, all over 100,000 company secretaries all over the world, and out of that, almost 50,000 are from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and I think that's a very, very significant number. I think you are the pioneers and you are the leaders as far as the profession of company secretaries goes, and I think that is something which I think is a great strength for the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and that I think needs to be leveraged to its full extent in expanding, your outreach with the world, and to see that this profession grows, in the other countries as well. Some of the points which perhaps you can look at is I actually also as a chartered accountant, and I'm on the committee of international affairs of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And I know that how the institute is expanding, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is expanding its outreach with the world. And that is something I think is worth emulating. They have now set up chapters all across the world. There are about 45 chapters of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India all over the world. I know that you have 5 chapters, but certainly there is a scope for expanding it further. And I would encourage both, Ashish and the President, Mr. Nagendra Rao, to look into this, that how we can enhance our presence globally. And as far as, our system of embassies and consulates all over the world is concerned, and the help which may be required from the government side, from the Ministry of External Affairs, we are ready to give all kind of assistance in this regard, in expanding your outreach all over the world. Wherever you think you can have a presence, overseas, we'll be happy to extend whatever help is required in that context. But what I want to emphasize is that you can also look at perhaps having sort of mutual recognition agreements, or Institute of Chartered Accountants of India have a couple of them. I'm sure you might also be having. One of MRA which I am aware of is with UK, which you have. Perhaps it's not maybe an MRA in the full form, in its full-fledged, kind of view, but I think you have some exemptions of papers and all that is there, and I think that needs to be enhanced in other jurisdictions as well. The other thing which I think is very, very important for enhancing your global outreach is to help, a lot of developing countries and the least developed countries to, evolve a kind of corporate governance system which they are not having at present. Most of them lack kind of a governance system, and because they don't have an institute like you have, Institute of Company Secretaries of India. So I think one thing which you can look at is to perhaps help them in setting up Institute of Company Secretaries of their respective countries and design their curriculum and other regulatory requirements. I think that is something perhaps you can look at. So all these things will certainly go in enhancing global cooperation and global engagements as far as company secretaries are concerned. We have fairly developed system of company secretaries profession in economies like Russia or in the Western economies, in UK and US and other places. But there are many countries where we may not have, the kind of structure which you have. So you can certainly help those countries in building that kind of an structure. I think you can look at that wherever it is felt that the government can help in that respect. I think you can certainly approach us or your parent department, which is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, to look into that, and we would be happy to look into whatever help is possible from our side within the framework of the legal system which we operate in. So I think that's all from my side. I think there are enormous opportunities for global cooperation, enhancing your global footprints all over, and cooperation among various institutions which regulates the profession of company secretaries in different countries. So with that, I think I wish perhaps in the future, whenever we meet again, I would be able to hear that you have entered into some more MRAs and opened up some more, your chapters and regional offices or whatever you call it. But it would be my, wish that you enter into that. Being a company secretary, I feel that perhaps our institute goes global, and that is what I think is very, very important in this particular era of globalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your words of encouragement, sir. I think coming from the ministry, we're really humbled and we have really expressed our gratitude. And definitely we would be looking forward to seeking your support for enhancing our global outreach. I would now like to request Ms. Natalia Podolsky to please share your initial remarks, initial few words with respect to corporate secretary and ESG agenda in a Russian company. You have to unmute yourself, Natalia.
Yes. Thank you very much. So thank you all organizers for inviting me to this esteemed panel. And if you allow me, I will be sharing my slides from my computer. So just I need a couple of seconds to launch the, yes, here it is. Yes. Can you see it on the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Just a second.
You want us to share that?
I believe so. We can start at least.
Okay.
Yes.
Just we'll
Yes.
start. We'll share. Are you able to see the screen? Can you?
I'm sorry, I cannot now. I'll have to.
Okay, give me a moment. Is it better? Can you see it now? Natalia, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can now.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
Again, I would like to thank you all for this kind invitation and the detailed introduction. I'm here as head of the National Corporate Secretaries Association member and head of the Sustainability and ESG Working Group, which was established last year to promote advanced practices in the ESG area and is aimed at strengthening the role of corporate secretaries in the governance system as an influencer and implementer, referring to your earlier research, as an influencer and implementer of the board's agenda and its collective willpower. Why me? It was an honor from the National Association of Corporate Secretaries to appoint me to this position. And it was mainly due to the fact that since 2016, I've been corporate secretary of one of the largest companies in Russia, Lukoil. Lukoil is one of the largest publicly traded, vertically integrated oil and gas companies in the world, accounting for around 2% of the world's oil production and around 1% of the proved hydrocarbon reserves. Each day, we improve the quality of life for millions of consumers in all over 100 countries around the globe through the supply of our products, power, and heat. We employ over 100,000 people who join their efforts and expertise to ensure the company's efficient development and secure its market leadership. So in my presentation, I will focus on what sustainable development and ESG mean and how they integrated into the current governance and management system of a Russian company or global company, using Lukoil as a management system of companies, using Lukoil as an example. In 2017, the board of directors of Lukoil determined 4 strategic goals of Lukoil Group in the field of sustainable development, which can be related to 11 UN sustainable development goals and 15 targets. These 4 goals are grouped as industrial and environmental safety, reliability, and efficiency of processes, competitiveness, social responsibility, a worthy contribution to social development, and return on equity, return on investment, and continuous creation of shareholder value. So all these goals set by the company and by the company's board are fully consistent with the 17 sustainable development goals that are used, that serve as a guiding star in the area of sustainable development. You know them very well, and here I give the link to the goals. Next slide, please. So, why create and enhance the ESG management system? First and foremost, incorporated into the company strategy. These goals and these activities are aimed at shielding and strengthening the company's reputation and increasing the trust of shareholders. We also seek to strengthen competitive advantage and ensure effectiveness across capital, access to capital, M&A deals and tenders. It will also help to for us to be well prepared for carbon regulation, and will help businesses to prepare for mandatory carbon reporting and carbon border taxation. And last but not least, to define climate risks and opportunities, which is a very topical issue now, and through that to identify emerging climate risks and opportunities and take them into account when building your business strategy. Next slide, please. Here I'm showing you 2 basic slides kindly provided to us by KPMG, one of the world's most known accountants and consultants, about basic elements of the ESG corporate management system, which includes based on requirements and obligation and best practices. Companies first and foremost should identify their mission and vision, key stakeholders, strategic goals, business processes, and current organizational structure and operational plans. All that for developing and formulating sustainable development principles, developing a stakeholders map, including list of stakeholders, impact assessment and priority of stakeholders, define ESG strategy and ESG KPIs, develop and update ESG organizational structure, regulation and standards, and ensure stakeholder engagement. Also develop ESG programs, development plans and projects, foster stakeholder engagement. As a roundup for that, there should be permanent, constant performance monitoring, including feedback mechanisms that can be translated into regular reporting and stakeholder interaction. Next slide, please. The other slide from KPMG shows a classical structure of ESG management system, which is crystal clear from the point of view that it has two basic levels. It's the holding company level and a subsidiary level. At the holding company level, the top of the structure, at the top of the structure is the general shareholders meeting with the board of directors appointed by it, with its different committees like audit committee, strategy committee, committee on remuneration, compensation, and committee on risks and others. Then it is supported by the management committee or executive management, and headed by the general director, which has several reporting levels from different functional. Please come back. Get back, please. Previous slide. Which has different functional divisions, specialized divisions like HR, social policy, PR, production, sales, marketing and sales, supply, etc., health and safety, environmental department. And the subsidiary level includes similar structures at a level reporting to general directors of subsidiaries from relevant business units. Next slide, please. So at the next slide, you'll be able to see that the Lukoil organizational structure, slide 6, please. The Lukoil organization structure related to ESG management is quite consistent generally with the classical chart, with the classical structure. Definitely, like any other company, it has its own specifics based on the scope and type of activities. For instance, Lukoil has a special committee under the board of directors, which is the Strategy, Investment, Sustainability and Climate Adaptation Committee, in addition to the Audit Committee and the HR and Compensation Committee. These are the upper level, the strategic level. I mean, the board and committees. At operational level, there are several working groups or task forces reporting to the top management, to the CEO, and these are sustainability task force and decarbonization and climate change adaptation task force. Both task forces are headed by members of the management committee who are first executive vice president and vice president for sustainability. So the board is headed by the chairman, who does highly efficient leadership, who performs highly efficient leadership of the board in terms of all of these issues. And we have a special representative from the academic circles, which is an independent member of the board of directors who is chairman of the Strategy Investment, Sustainability and Climate Adaptation Committee. That is Mr. Boris Porfiryev. He is academician of Russian Academy of Sciences, specializing in analysis, assessment, and forecasting natural and man-made risks of sustainable economic development, a specialist in climate change issues. We have a special envoy, I would say, an executive member of the board of directors, Mr. Leonid Fedun, who is also vice president for strategic development. He was appointed by the board in charge of the company activities related to climate change. And we have another very dedicated board member, Mrs. Tobi Gatti, who is actively involved in the discussion of the ESG topics and brings international experience and in-depth expertise. So as I mentioned, we have two members of the management committee in charge of the two working groups or task forces. So the current corporate structure of the ESG management system is aimed at effective management of non-financial risks and risks associated with global climate change. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this information can be found in greater detail if you follow the link I put on at the bottom of the page. So you will find the entire report 2020, Sustainability Report 2020, which received a number of great national and international awards. Can you please go on with the next slide, please? So here I will very briefly point out the main elements, the key elements of the management system. As I mentioned, the board of directors determines the strategy and considers issues of climate change and assesses the results of the environmental safety, industrial safety programs, reviews issues related to health, environment, safety and environment of the Lukoil group, and reviews information on major incidents and accidents and their causes. And Strategy, Investment, Sustainability and Climate Adaptation Committee of the Board of Directors prepares recommendations to the board on all of these issues. Next slide, please.
Natalia, can you please, because we have I'm very sorry, we are very pressed for time,
okay,
we have two more speakers and questions, please,
yes.
Okay. 30 seconds, please. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to be very brief. Can you please go through the slides and let me see. Slide 12 and slide, yes. As I mentioned before, the corporate secretary takes an active part in all of the activities adopted by the board and committees, and the corporate secretary is a member of the sustainability task force. So next slide, please, and it will be the final one. So this year, Lukoil celebrates 30th anniversary. So this year, and this slide shows milestones of Lukoil's ESG development. The next two slides show how Lukoil's ratings, positions of rating have increased, have been increasing, and the last one shows the awards that the company received both nationally and internationally. Thank you very much. All of this can be read and can be is available on the website.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalia. Sorry.
The wonderful sustainability report.
All right.
That I was referring to. Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry for taking too much time.
That's absolutely fine. We just a little pressed for time. But thank you so much for walking us through the structural breakup of the ESG management systems. I would now like to request CS Ashish Garg to please take a cue from there and continue with your opening remarks.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It feels great to connect with fellow professionals from across the globe, especially speakers and audience from Russia. At the outset, I would like to wish each one of you and your loved ones good health, strength, and continued hope. In Russian, Dobro utro, a very kind morning to Russia, and Zdrastri, I wish you to be healthy. Thanks Oleg and Team Russia for joining this webinar. In past 70 years, the relationship between India and Russia has historically mutually beneficial and had strong strategic relationship, including trade and economic, defense and diplomatic, science and technology and culture. Trust and mutual interest are at the base of India and Russia relations. And I hope and assure the same will continue between governance professionals and company secretaries of both the countries and both the institutions. I also thank Mahavir Singhvi ji for having faith in us as Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Yes, sir, we have 5 overseas centers and planning to have more in this year and coming years, and tie up with more institutions globally, including we are, because this webinar will give more leverage to have a tie-up with Russian Institute in this month or coming month only. And we are planning to tie up with Russian Institute in this year itself. CSIA, in its endeavor to facilitate, develop and promote the profession of corporate secretaries, have been reflecting on the renewed role of corporate secretaries encompassing the new age governance professionals. I am sure that through this webinar today, we will be able to explore the integrated business planning process and strategies that engages innovation in achieving long-term sustainable growth. Taking a cue from what just said from the earlier speakers, the impact that an organization has on the environment, its commitment towards society, including its stakeholders, and the corporate governance procedures that it adopts has gained a lot of momentum recently across the globe. ESG has a purpose beyond ethical concern. It therefore makes sense that a strong ESG proposition drives performance, builds resilience, and create values. And the first step in realizing value begins with recognizing the opportunity. The COVID-19 pandemic has not just been a health catastrophe. The fallout is also seen in the social, economical, and developmental side, exposing the fragility of even the most advanced countries. Businesses are now committing to protect their people, planet, and profits in equal measures. Reporting on the non-financial metrics like diversity, climate change, human rights, and corporate culture has thus become an integral part of business operations today, upholding trust amongst all stakeholders and augmenting sustainability. To emphasize on the redefined responsibility of corporate secretary towards reporting on the non-financial metrics of diversity and sustainability, CSIA also organized a webinar to launch a report, Climate Change and the Corporate Secretary, Influencer or Implementer, on 6th of May this year. The survey affirmed that corporates have recognized the opportunities and efficiencies that the climate change initiatives could create for the organizations. They have started implementing these initiatives to manage future climate risk, reduce energy expenses, and are earning better reputation as a responsible corporate citizen, bringing in higher consumer interest, a strong relationship with both community and government is giving them a better access to resources, as well as wherein they can achieve resource efficiency and combat rising operating expenses. Corporate secretaries of today and tomorrow need to understand that this will not just ease regulatory pressure, but also give greater strategic freedom and government support to organizations and adopt to the changing dynamics. With this opening remark, giving back to Sonu for more interactions and question answers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garg, for that enlightening insight. I think with that, we've touched base with all the elements of collaborative synergies. We will now start with our panel discussion, and I'll try to get at least, or let me say, more than one perspective on each question, if time permits. And we will also take live questions from our audience. But again, it will be towards the end of our initial discussion. However, the audience can post questions live anytime. We'll try and accommodate whatever is relevant. And a recording of this panel discussion would be available on the official YouTube channel of the ICSR. So my first question would be to Mr. Oleg Svetkov. Now, since you've already taken us through the growth of the profession and the institute in Russia, I would now like to ask you, what are the development plans and new initiatives of NCSA?
Thank you very much. Actually, I touched upon the in my first opening remarks that we are living in the world of stakeholder capitalism, and we should find the new approaches, the new way how to work with different type of stakeholders, and just this is the first thing, and we are also thinking of that. This is the first, and to help the company secretaries to get orientated in this wider range of stakeholders and ways of work. The second thing, we are starting now the new IT program, just to develop the IT skills of company secretaries, and also to help them to understand the wide range of IT opportunities and all these things, and including AI and all these technical trends which are now chasing us, and we just and introducing it in our lives. And the next trend is ESG, and actually not as a flag, but actually is something professionally done, or what just some recipes, some approaches, and we are doing. Yes, we are planning to develop this program, these activities, and probably the last but not the least, we want to expand. I mean, provide different opportunities globally, and to our members, and that's why we are thinking of promoting and developing the future work and cooperation with the Indian Institute is the first from the first place. These are the four trends, the four main directions for us. Thank you.
Great. You've kind of given us the roadmap ahead of the Russian Institute. Wonderful.
It's actually very good to have strategy just for that. And just we are as a board of, for all big companies, for Sberbank is a big company, for NCSA is a smaller company. For other companies to have strategies is the first place, is the first thing to have, and it helps a lot to achieve the target. Thank you.
Absolutely. So my next question is for Mr. Mahavir Singhvi. I would want him to share his views on what should the professional bodies / organizations in the country aim for to strengthen their hold, their presence in the global governance map. I think he did touch a little bit of it in his initial remark. But then specifically, what should be the professional body's goal and what should they aim for?
I think Mahavirji is not there. We can. You are mute, Sonu.
I think no problem, sir. In that case, on the same lines, I would request you to answer this as to what kind of goals should be set to build resilient economic systems and meet corporate governance challenges. What are the expectations from the modern day company secretaries?
Yeah, basically because the last 2 years have been marked with a magnificence of social, environmental, and economic disruptions around the world. And basically, we have seen the countries, organizations, and even individuals were exposed to a daunting task of reworking on their developmental policies, from trading to a steady, sustainable growth path. The focus shifted to creating a well-resourced response pattern to COVID-19. In a world of increasingly unpredictable and complex risk, the ability to bounce back has had a direct impact on assessing resilience. While the world adjusted its sail to the recovery and regrowth process, building resilient economic system within good corporate governance framework should ideally become a dominant strategy and operational goal world over. Like CSIA, Corporate Secretaries International Association, has been since its formation facilitating, developing, and promoting good governance globally. It has been unceasingly working towards strengthening the corporate governance environment, along with getting due recognition for the profession of corporate secretaries in jurisdiction where the role has remained administrative. As we are aware that the boundaries today are being renegotiated to meet the legal, societal, and stakeholders' expectations all across. Hence, the need for cooperation amongst professional bodies of the world has grown. CSIA, having understood the need of the hour, have partnered with one of its founder member, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, ICSI, on numerous occasions to provide all its members opportunities of learning, growing, and exchanging views on professional matters. And it's growing day by day. We have a full-time member, we have affiliated member, we have corporate member. So this type of webinars will give more recognitions to corporate secretaries across the globe. Such collaborations are vital as they demonstrate the importance of knowledge sharing between jurisdictions, organizations, and individual governance professionals. Presently, I think this webinar is viewed by across the globe. We have shared this link with the other countries as well as the countries from the members from Russia, the members from India. All are witnessing this happening in across the world. The institute, the ICSI, on other hand, is also playing a pivotal role in comprehending the requirement of governance professionals world over by organizing joint program with similar professional bodies to create a platform for exchange of ideas and enhance the employability of its members beyond India. We have 5 overseas centers. In coming time, as I informed you, we are going to open more centers with over 65,000 members and approximately 2.5 lakh students. The ICSI has the largest membership and student base of company secretaries in the world and has evolved its role as an inclusive body in the global corporate governance map. Fundamentally, we are aware that efficient leadership is instrumental in realizing the goal of good governance, and ethically managing an organization calls for effective risk management strategies, with organizations increasingly creating a wider role for the entire gamut of risk management process. The need of young leaders who are skilled and competent to manage the strides has risen considerably. CSIA has been catalyzing this change and playing the crucial role of refocusing, reinfusing of corporate environment with good governance world over. It is also identifying innovative ways to create a culture of innovation and equipping its members with the required knowledge and skill set to stay ahead in these turbulent times. Though the introduction and adoption of global governance code has induced a lot of transparency and changing dynamics, still calls for proactive corporate secretaries who will not just ensure a robust compliance framework for sustainable development, but also assume the explicit role of board advisors and report on the non-financial metrics and diversities and sustainability. And I hope that India and Russia will join together, will have more strategies, more synergies in times to come. I also formally invite our Russian counterpart to attend our national convention and to have more synergies between both the countries in times to come. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for inviting the Russian Institute for the National Convention. We definitely share a formal invite in quite shortly. Now, sorry, Natalia, we did cut you in between during your opening remarks, but I have a very specific question for you. I think you'd be able to cover it up all in this answer. So what is the role of a corporate secretary in drafting and implementing the board's agenda and in disclosing ESG data to stakeholders?
Thank you very much, Sona. Actually, I already mentioned it in my opening statement, and it is quite practical for us to do well as we do. Just normally the corporate secretary collects information from different divisions in order to prepare a first draft work plan for the board and committees, and which are later discussed by the board members and committee members, and then this final draft is approved by the committees and the board. And that's in terms of drafting the agenda. As to its implementation, my goal, my job, and like any other corporate secretary's job, is just to make sure that all these agenda items are duly prepared and submitted to the board, so that the board would consider them and make appropriate decisions, and for us then to keep monitoring implementation of these decisions, and we report to the board on that too on an annual basis. Regarding disclosure, as I mentioned, at Lukoil, corporate secretary is a member of the sustainability task force, which is the main goal of which is to make an overview of all developments related to sustainability and ESG, including governance, including regulation, climate change, IT matters, and in data collection, etc. So, the other practical matter is to draft a work plan for preparing the sustainability report on an annual basis. So again, the corporate secretary prepares these meetings and follows closely the implementation of this plan, so that at each and every meeting scheduled according to the task force's plan, we listen to we hear the progress, what the progress is on the report's implementation. So finally, this report, once presented to the board, to the committees, strategy investment committee, and the board, is published on the website. So, and then is communicated to all stakeholders. But before that, normally various stakeholders are contacted for significant issues that should be disclosed in the report. That's how we work. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I think ESG and stakeholder participation, both are kind of very crucial matters today. Would anyone else like to add a comment to or add something to what Natalia has just said? Or, I mean, if not, we can move on to the next question. Is anyone willing to add something? I think you've covered it all. Great, no problem. So I would now like to move on to the regulatory side. And the next question then would be to Mr. Alexander Kaminsky. What are the trends in corporate governance regulation that you see globally?
Well, I was talking about Russian practice, and as you saw from my slide, I was demonstrating the current situation of corporate governance regulations more about recommendation and soft regulation. So I believe that we will more and more see not obligatory provisions that the company should follow, but more and more best practices and soft regulations. Instead of statutes, laws, codes, etc. And I think that in Russia, state on the one hand will set clear rules of the games through the laws, statutes.
Alexander, just a second. Sorry to cut you in between. Could you be a little louder? I think that's just because there are a lot of people all across the globe. If you were a little louder, it will be easier for us to hear.
Okay, I will try to do this. So I told that I believe that state, on the one hand, will set clear rules of the game through the laws and through the basic regulation. And on the other hand, more and more power will be, and the influence will be from the global investors and the substantial shareholders and other stakeholders who will submit new items to the corporate governance agenda. And they will set new expectations from the company's activities. We see it now regarding the ESG items. We will see, I believe, the growth of stakeholders universe, and items of social responsibility will grow up, and diversity expectations will come to the agenda of most companies. So it will be regulated somehow. So I believe that new stakeholders and new participants will play active roles, and new items will appear and will be promoted by them.
Great, thank you so much. I think we can come back to the regulatory regime, but while we're talking about global trends, let us try and understand how it is affecting the international collaborations. I'd like to just bring to your notice here that ICSI also has joined hands with many international bodies, and I'm sure we can see a lot of opportunities for the profession and the members converging in different jurisdictions. I'd like to ask the next question to Oleg. What synergies do you expect from such international collaborations?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Merch. Very good question. And actually, I was expecting that, because the topic of our webinar today is enhancing collaboration. And actually, we should talk about that. The first part was about introduction to what are we doing on both sides. But actually, it's kind of the joint work which we are proposing to our members is very important. It's very important for us both. And I see from our previous discussions, starting discussions, I see it could be a good opportunity to exchange the programs between us and events. This joint event is the bright example for that. This is a great opportunity. The second thing is kind of the exchange and the the source of new ideas and insights, which actually the result of this can be the result of this collaboration. We as a professional association doing lots of materials on corporate governance. We issue a special bulletin every 2 months, which is with comics, with different interviews, with different hot topic ideas, discussions, lots of everything, and we are ready to provide. And I know that you are doing much more than that, and that is interesting for us as well. For example, I'm talking now, which I haven't talked before, and all other things are also in place. And the third thing for me is probably very important, is when we're doing these things, it helps the promotion of Institute of Company Secretary worldwide, and make this profession more visible. And Mr. Garg said that influence or implement the company secretary. It is actually both. From a purely administrative thing, position, the company secretary is now getting to kind of to more influence and more efficient profession, which helps the business, and this kind of cooperation can help that. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Now that we also have Mr. Singhvi here, I would really like to understand, how does the ministry, the government, assess such collaborations? And what do you have to say about the cooperation among these chartered secretaries? Mr. Singhvi.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to go somewhere. I don't know what was the discussion all about, but the question which you asked is quite pertinent. I think you asked that how does the ministry views these collaborations. I think international collaborations with other countries and also the world institutions, I think they are very important as far as even strengthening the relationship between the two countries are concerned. I think these such collaborations provide opportunities for the members of each country to exchange ideas, to come together, to exchange best practices around the world. So it ultimately improves the corporate governance, practices and structures around the world. So I think such collaborations are welcome, and personally speaking, I'm not talking about the ministry as such, but personally speaking, to my understanding, there should not be any objection to any kind of cooperation or collaborations with other countries, so far as they fit in within the gamut of our overall relationship. And wherever we have, the relationship, which is based and founded on good footing, then I think these such kind of collaborations would go a long way to further strengthen that, and that is I think is very important. So I would always encourage, and I said that we need to have more, our chapters abroad. We need to see that our qualification is recognized in the other countries. So I think the institute needs to work in that direction and see how we can, make our presence, felt across the world. And as I said in the beginning, as one of your own statistics on the institute's website says that you have more than half the number of the company secretaries all over the world. So I think you are in a leadership position to really see that this profession really truly becomes global, and it brings laurels to the the members of the institute, and help the economy at such to grow also, because you are the one who are drivers of the corporate structures and corporate systems around the world. So I think you play a very important role in ensuring compliances, and now you are also in advising companies, ensuring legal compliances. All those kind of things are very, very important, and I think any such collaborations with any other country, would be always welcome. To my understanding, it shouldn't be any issue. I think I would welcome all such collaborations from the ICS. I would encourage them to enter into more, such collaborations or MRAs or whatever you call it, and now open up your chapters abroad. Bring all your members together, and that would provide a synergy to grow further, in your objectives, and to achieve your objectives even better. I think that should be the aim of the institute, and with that, they should work. Thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Yeah.
Mr.
Yes,
I wanted to say thank you. Just very, very, very good ideas, and wanted to add that this kind of exchange of the programs on just the corporate law, on corporate practices can help the business as well for Indian companies in Russia, for Russian companies in India that can contribute and show their real value to the companies. Just from the position of the regulations and the corporate law practices and all this. If our specialists have this opportunity to exchange. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mr. Singhvi has left us on a very positive note that the ministry is absolutely welcoming in his individual capacity. Also, he said that such collaborations are welcome. I'm sure these, all of you all would agree that such platforms where we are all sharing and exchanging our ideas is giving a lot of opportunities to the company secretaries, to the corporate secretaries to understand the laws, the regulatory side of each other, of the other country. So I think that's a very welcome step. On the same note, we have our president joining in. So I just mentioned that ICSI also has joined hands with a lot of international bodies. So I would like CS Nagendra Rao to please throw some light in this area. And also, in your opinion, do you see the opportunities of the profession converging in different jurisdictions?
Thank you, Sonu. At the outset, apologies for my side for joining a little bit late, though I had joined earlier as we had an obituary meeting, so I had to be there. So apologies for joining late once again. Let me begin with good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the overseas members. Good afternoon to our Russian counterpart professional colleagues. Good afternoon to all the esteemed members of our profession in India, as well as to all our overseas centers who are present over here. I welcome each and every one for and also the panelists who are present over here for an excellent discussion which has taken place today. Well, as an Institute of Company Secretaries of India, let me make a small opening remark to the question what you have also asked, so that I can continue, so that our Russian counterpart and professional will be aware of our institute, what exactly our Institute of Company Secretaries of India is. The Institute of Company Secretaries of India is set up under an Act of Parliament, and it is under the Company Secretaries Act 1980, and we have the Company Secretaries Regulation 1982, which have been amended from time to time. And in pursuance to this Company Secretaries Act of 1980, which mandates the Council to manage the affairs of the Institute and discharge the various functions, which gives the power. So the Council has got the ultimate power or authority, and the main object of the Company Secretaries Act is and regulate and develop the profession of the company secretaries. So at the time of regulation of the company secretaries, you will find we have called a disciplinary mechanism which regulates the profession and the professionals, so that in case of any misconduct is being conducted by our professional colleagues, you will find they come under the ambit of the disciplinary committee as well as under the board of discipline. Similarly, we have got various other mechanisms to improve the corporate governance or the governance standards which are going to be performed by the company secretaries. It may be by virtue of a quality review board, or it may be by virtue of the peer review board. So there are two separate boards wherein you will find, for the purpose of ensuring the quality, for the purpose of ensuring the governance, for the ensuring a better system, for the purpose of ensuring the better standards, you will find we have the in-house the peer review board, as well as we have the secretary, we have the quality review board. So in that connection, I just wanted to set the tone right so far as what the Institute of Company Secretaries is about. And we have around 66,000 members plus members, as well as around 250,000 students who are registered as a student for the ICSI. As asked by you, Sonu, we have got a rationale behind the strong governance culture has coalesced the disparate economies of the world. Implementation of regulatory reforms and the influx of the technology has irrevocably propelled the need for skilled professionals with highest standards of best practice and professionalism, and therefore the need of quality review board as well as the peer review board. Though the compliance of the corporate law is an important function of the company secretaries, effective implementation of the regulatory reforms coupled with ensuring more transparency in disclosure requirements redefine the role to encompass the strengthening the business environment and corporate administration in the country. Today, you will find the company secretary fills in that essential character. It fills in the strategic role in the governance that supports the board as well as the leadership in pursuit of professional excellence or governance excellence. To keep pace with this changing dynamics of global governance framework, corporates are looking at modern day company secretaries who can understand the emerging role of the technologies that could impact the businesses and take up the responsibility reporting on the non-financial metrics like diversity and sustainability and corporate culture. Understanding this need, ICSI signed various memorandum of understanding. One such memorandum of understanding is with CGI, that is now the ICSA, in many countries to provide the reciprocal exemptions to subjects as well as training requirements to each other members to make the membership more accessible and augmenting their employability. ICSI is also a member of Corporate Secretaries International Association Limited, that is CSIA, and I'm proud to say that our member of the council, our immediate past president of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, is also the president of the CSIA. International Valuation Standard Council, we have entered into an MOU, International Corporate Governance Network, and has been closely associated with Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Malaysian Association of Company Secretaries, with its main objective of promoting, improving, upgrading and advancing the professional status of company secretaries in Malaysia, has adopted the Institute of Company Secretaries Secretarial Standards. And you will find that this secretarial standards has set a benchmark for its own standards. I would like to highlight that UK NARIC, UK National Agencies, is responsible for providing informed advice and guidance on vocational, academic, as well as professional qualifications from over 190 countries worldwide, and has recognized ICSI executive and professional programs as equivalent to bachelor's and master's degrees, respectively, UK and USA. I feel that more and more countries, when we get together and also form an association or a memorandum of understanding or come within the ambit of the CSIA, I feel there is a lot of things to exchange and lot of things to learn, lot of things to collaborate, and lot of things to upgrade ourselves and take each and every Institute of Company Secretaries of India or ICSA at your end to a new height, to a new glory. Thank you once again, Sonu, for this particular question. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. I think that kind of brought us back to the regulations. So my next question would be for Mr. Alexander Kaminsky. What, according to you, are the actual targets for corporate governance regulation?
Thank you, Sano. Globally, we are really very different. Our history and culture and traditions might be very different. For example, something usual and normal for China or Far East might be not acceptable for Middle East or Western Europe. I think this is our global value to be different, and I believe that's not only gender diversity, but also other types of diversity will be acknowledged and promoted within regulation. Second important item is power of social networks and quasi-monopoly of proxy advisors. On the one hand, we see the unique case of Reddit flash mob for the GameStop shares. when a big number of followers act all together to change the share price of the company and to squeeze the bears from their position on the exchange. This may change the financial market tremendously, and I guess this situation was not yet grasped enough. On the other hand, we see a great power of the institutional investors and global investment funds, and a good case when they act according to their own corporate governance policy. More challenging situation is when they are following just proxy advisors' policies. And I think that the regulators should be focused on this and address these issues in regulation. And the last but not the least is digital transformation. I think that we should say goodbye to the paper and our processes with digital products, apps and programs. Actually, there is no need to have paper minutes or voting ballots in the modern world. We should have an opportunity to support corporate governance totally online, and regulations should assist us in this. And a few years ago, I visited India to participate in the ICSI annual convention and Bhubaneswar, and it took me about 1 day to travel there. Today, I spent a few minutes just to get connected, and we have even more wide audience listening to us today. So this is how the world changed, and this is how the communication changed, and this is how the regulation should be changed. So this is my answer to your question.
Thank you so much. And I think all that has changed is changed for the good. Now, since we've brought in technology into our discussion, Oleg also mentioned about the IT skills that that you all are planning to update your members with. The AI that has been introduced. I have a very important question. I think I would like to ask this question to Mr. Ashish Garg. With technology taking over all workspaces, how important it will be for the corporates to invest in human capital as the future of work? How is the CSIA preparing for such complexity?
I think it is again out of blue question on the human capital, but yes, COVID-19 gave us a unique perspective of human capacities. While it drove people, communities, and nations apart to protect the loss of life and livelihood, it has also brought them all together in the fight against it. We have seen across the world that how people have fought it together. So redesigning the future from this havoc has been a Herculean task, but the human potential did the impossible in record time, and in continuing to work hard on rebuilding from the strategies adopted during the crisis. The pandemic has also shown us how resilient and adaptable our workforce is by quickly taking over additional responsibilities and contributing in various other fields. Though digital platforms did create wider awareness and helped in spreading the information faster than ever, the importance of human capital can never be negated. In fact, that we have actually seen in that the human-machine integration has proved to be more effective than each of its own during the pandemic. Thus, it is non-negotiable that investing in human capital should be a policy priority by economies all across. In addition, government should also work on implementing a scheme for owning the skill sets and creating new opportunities to match this technology's progress. The new age workforce will have to be created to be more adaptable and be better at complex problem solving. As governance professionals, as company secretaries, yes, we will have to analyze the emerging technologies that could impact business and persistently up skills our knowledge and competency to support the board and leadership in pursuit of governance excellence. We have to lead good governance culture all around the world. We have seen in India how we have hold the board meetings, how we have conducted the annual general meetings, how we have filed the forms while working from home. So we company secretaries, I think, is the most important workforce, those who have worked during this pandemic. Having set foot in the areas of cyber and strategic risk, regulatory and legal support, transactions and merger and acquisitions, and accounting and internal controls. Corporate secretaries are reinstating the fact that human performance augmented and collaborated with technology can imbue the risk management culture down the line. We can see today that business world over by entwining with the environmental and social concern. Despite the advent of technology, organizations and social engagement activities are often achieving higher valuations than others. Countries as well as individual organizations have started implementing well-directed and well-resourced response that are inclusive, forward-looking, and aligned with the ESG mandate. The tightening of reins has further necessitated the rationale of strong governance culture. Hence, it will be all the more important of corporate secretaries to both equip themselves with the acumen and expertise sought by corporates, as well as create board awareness on the materiality of the risk and opportunities from sustainability trends, including stakeholders' participation. If we are talking about CSIA, being the global voice of governance professional, is playing a pivotal role in this good governance culture across the world, demonstrating an emerging leadership in the corporate secretary's profession. CSIA is providing assistance in establishing national bodies in countries where there are no formal institutions to support the company secretaries and corporate secretaries. With more than 1 lakh corporate secretaries and governance professionals in more than 100 countries in the world, CSIA is representing a brigade of qualified young human capital that will evidently have an exclusive responsibility in the global corporate governance map. Organizations today and tomorrow will only be able to create value if technology will be to leverage the power of artificial intelligence in tandem with human performance to thrive in environments of disruptions, uncertainty, and change. The challenge is not just in analyzing the opportunity that has been thrown, but to ensure robust compliance framework that support sustainable development and strategies, the global corporate environment. So, end of the day, I think just a message is in one line: human capital is the future, is the very important aspect, and everyone has to invest in the human capital during this COVID pandemic times. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I think that has kind of cleared all doubts as to whether the AI and machine learning would take over the human jobs. Are we at some kind of risk? But I think he's very beautifully weaved in as to how human capital augmented with technology will definitely be the future. I think we just touched base with stakeholder participation. So on that note, I have a question for Natalia. Stakeholder expectation with respect to corporate disclosures is high today, right? What is the NCSA ESG working group's mandate and agenda?
Thank you very much, Zona. As I mentioned before, the NCSA Sustainability ESG Working Group was established last year with the purpose of promoting advanced practices, governance practices, and in the area of ESG, and enhancing the role of corporate secretaries in the ESG governance system. And I would like to praise the research report that was announced by you some time ago, on climate change and corporate secretary, influencer or implementer. So this idea, this approach fully corresponds to what we think the corporate secretary's role should be. It should be definitely an influencer and implementer of the board's agenda and its collective willpower. In this respect, based on the fact that the working group, Sustainability and ESG Working Group, was established by the National Corporate Secretaries Association last year, we've had 4 meetings by now, and the key idea is to have best experts to present their views on various aspects of the ESG agenda, like the overview of regulation, both national and international, looking at corporate governance as an element of the ESG management, the role of the board of directors and the corporate secretaries in the system of managing the ESG sustainable development. We also have considered such matters as a strategy, sustainability strategy development, and use of IT solutions in order to optimize business processes, some views of some aspects of disclosing non-financial information and climate change, etc. So we're also planning to address the issue of human capital and human rights and responsible supply chain in the near future. In addition to the main sort of expertise overview, our idea is to have at each and every meeting that we have quarterly, representatives from stakeholders like investment funds and rating agencies and representatives of and corporate secretaries from different companies to report on how they deliver their job in this area. So this is how we do our work. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, that has kind of brought us towards the end of our discussion. However, we've received some questions from our audience who's watching us live from all across. I would not be able to take all of them, but maybe one or two. So I have one very specific question. It says corporate governance is a challenge in itself, and it's not an easy job. Sometimes there is lesser coordination within the departments. What steps should be taken to make it easy access for all corporates? To make it easy for all corporates. I would like Oleg to answer this question. You want me to repeat the question?
No, I can read it. I can read it, no problem. And actually, this is a very good question. And theoretically, the answer can be given just and lots of books are written to that. But practically, it is really difficult. And for me, when I want to find a solution to the questions like this, which are bothering me and my colleagues, I talk lots to my colleagues how they do, how they enhance discussions, how they achieve cooperation, what are their recipes, and what are their practices, which documents which they help them to make the process easygoing, and all this can be achieved through discussion, through joint exchange of ideas and exchange of experience. And I hope that our platform, the platform of Russian Association, platform of Indian Association, and kind of our joint activities can help to find answers to these questions. I wouldn't dig into the details now, but my kind of main findings is to find the right way through joint work. Thank you.
Great. Would anyone else like to add something to what Oleg has just said about what should be the strategy? I think he's kind of summed it all up. The entire discussion that we've had for the last 2 hours, this is kind of a wrap up. The last question that was asked, I think that can be taken as a key takeaway of the entire panel discussion that we've had today. So let me conclude here by thanking our exceptionally amazing panelists. Each one of you have given us an excellent outlook of the renewed role of governance professional and how each one of us in both our individual capacities as well as organizational capacity can contribute in strengthening the governance framework all across the globe. Thank you so much for your valuable time and your insights, and looking forward to having more such discussions.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for helping to make this event happen, and this your valuable, wonderful moderation. So just lots of praises from me and from my colleagues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.